Well, welcome to today's episode, everybody. Today, we've got a super exciting guest, Jared Tang. Jared Tang, he is the CEO and founder of Gaggle Social, the award-winning intelligence suite of tech hiring and productivity solutions. Under his leadership, Gaggle Social has helped organizations cut hiring timelines by over 60% and save thousands in recruitment costs, all while making the process more inclusive and skills-driven. Jared is passionate about solving real hiring pain points for both companies and candidates, and he's on a mission to make hiring faster, fairer, and smarter. When he's not building the future of work, you'll find him podcasting, connecting with global tech communities, and helping professionals showcase their skills in more authentic ways. So Jared, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark. I'm really excited about today.
Likewise. And for those of you just joining the podcast, we at Strativa AI help businesses scale their revenue over 12 months using AI. So if you'd like to learn how to take your business to the next level, be sure to stick around for future episodes or just drop the word DM growth into the chat here and we'll follow up with a growth consultation for you guys. So Jared, can you tell us a bit more about your history and what got you to where you're at with Gaggle?
Absolutely. So my background is primarily in marketing, communications, operations, and technology recruitment. I spent some time at a tech recruitment firm that focused on a financial technology known as NetSuite, and one that holds a very big place in my heart now, but it was an awesome experience and I learned a lot. And at the time, when Gaggle came into my mind, I had a bunch of contracts open. I was doing really well. And,
okay. And when was this? When did it
This was
come into your mind?
around 2020. So that tells you how long it takes to build something, right?
Yeah.
So around 2020, which is, at the sparking and start of, COVID and whatnot, right? And kind of where the inflection point was for me, I had a bunch of contracts open. And then when they announced that we were going on quarantine, I had most of my clients reaching out to me saying, hey, listen, I don't know if we can afford to continue with this contractor. We're a little worried about where we are financially. And we're not sure when things are going to stabilize, so we're going to have to cancel this for now. And it all kind of happened, one after another throughout the day. And then I was working, with the contractor that was my best at the time. And he and I were talking. He was like, there's got to be a better way. And I was like, I'm already thinking about one. And, that's kind of how it started. It really became an obsession of mine to work on, to think about, to find out ways to fix the current challenges that people are facing, from levels of how expensive it is to do hiring in general, let alone working with a recruiter that is usually brought into the fray after you've spent too much time already sourcing, then actually going through and sifting through all of those resumes and, seeing that there's 500 or so folks in there looking for work, but maybe between 0.5 to 1% is actually an okay fit, not even a good fit, right? And it has a lot to do with just the way that these systems are designed. And it really dawned on me that there's got to be something that we can do to improve the solutions. And we've been working ever since on solving that.
I love it. And so how big is your team now?
Yeah, we're about 11 at this point.
11,
and we're still growing. We're bringing on some new developers. Anybody who might want to potentially join our team, feel free to reach out. We are going to be trying to bring on applicants throughout most of the rest of the year.
Okay. So you're growing, and is there a certain sector that you're growing in specifically?
Yeah. So HR tech is kind of where we would say that we're a part of, but social networking is also a component because Gaggle does have that professional networking side of the business, from being able to connect with folks down to being able to chat and join communities and speak about things that you might have in common.
Right. Right. And then, so it sounds like you're bringing on more engineers. What would you say is your goal for growth over the next 12 months?
Yeah, I would say that we're looking to bring on some more folks in sales and marketing, in addition to the folks you want to bring on in tech. For engineering wise, we're looking at a couple of more junior hires, and then potentially bringing on a more senior AI focused hire that'll be able to kind of breathe some more life into some of the tools that we're trying to iterate on.
Fantastic. And what about in regards to like size of offering and service? So like your footprint, I don't know if that equates to number of users or,
Sure.
Not knowing your industry exactly.
Yeah. So we're focused on all tech, right? And as a matter of fact, we've actually recently made a change from being a developer and enterprise tech focused to being anyone who needs to interface with a technical product, whether that's Adobe Creative Suites all the way down to customer success tools, right? And with that being said, we've just launched our full iteration in April, and we're already seeing about 3,500 users on the network. Mostly are going to be within the enterprise tech world, as well as in the AI world now. And what our goals for the rest of the year is to continue on this path. As you can tell, that's a pretty short time to be building this organically. So we're seeing a great amount of success, and we're anticipating or projecting that will be likely around 10,000 users by end of the year, when we obviously add some additional costs and money to our advertising efforts.
And so is your model like mostly user-based, i.e. candidate-based, or how much is it balanced also with being company-based?
Yeah, so we do have a strong handful of companies who already have adopted our solutions, and they use them to evaluate candidates just on a standard basis, pretty much every day, looking into, who's new on the network, who now fits some of these skills that I might be hiring for in a couple of weeks. That number is about 80 companies at this point. We were actually down to about 50 2 weeks ago, and we've grown up to that point till now. So that's pretty fast growth.
Yeah.
See some folks who were sharing some feedback about how much they like it and some of the things that they'd love to add to that. And that's something that we pride ourselves on, is being able to be nimble enough to resolve some of these solutions or some of these areas or concerns, and being able to build what you truly as a user base wants to actually see. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that I would say we've driven a lot of our attention and time into the hiring space early on because it's more complex. And now we're putting a lot of our effort and energy into candidates, because candidates truly are king, right? At the end of the day, they're the ones that stabilize our market to a degree, because who's to say that they don't decide tomorrow to go build their own businesses, or they don't decide to go out tomorrow and start working on, one-on-one consulting, and then it's no longer an employee-driven culture. It's really more of a services-driven culture. So we recognize the power in that shift. And we appreciate that, they're able to kind of push the narrative along as to what exactly the status of the market is today, from being able to analyze, unemployment numbers to being able to figure out who's an entrepreneur nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As for the companies, obviously built a strong tandem cycle of solutions designed around them to ensure that hiring is done 63% faster, evaluation of candidates 70% faster, and that shortlists are 85% more manageable on average. And now we're kind of pushing out some new tools for the candidate side to help them, grow and share their experiences. And I'd love to share more about that with you all.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about it. And so those were some super specific numbers, right?
Sure.
And so what is it that comes up with those numbers? What are you guys analyzing? How are you showing the proof in the pudding there, if you will?
Absolutely. A lot of that is based around what recruiters themselves are currently dealing with, right? So when they're going through their evaluation process, if you really think about the process in general, they get their applicants in, and now they have to go through all of these folks. But in an hour to 2 hours, you can get up to 500 applicants, or off the bat, depending on how much you're spending, how attractive your job is. So as they're going through that, the number actually becomes a creeping anxiety to them, right? As that continues to grow. Grow, the more you feel like you have less time, because you have to now spend individualized time on each one of those areas. So say through LinkedIn, they go ahead and they get these profiles, and they have to now go and read through the resume, because that's really what LinkedIn provides. They don't provide much on that back end side if you're using their free tools to hire, right? So effectively from there, they're skimming through resumes, trying to figure that out. And they're actually spending on average anywhere between 3 seconds to about 15 seconds just going through it on the first skim, and then saying, okay, potentially a good fit. And everyone that they've now hashed from that first round of reviews then gets pushed into actual, let me spend some real time looking at them, which will then be anywhere between 2 to a 5 minute read of their resume. But with our solutions, actually provide what's the award-winning solution that we have, right? We actually just won it a couple weeks back at an Ally Jam for Witness Success, which is a great event for Salesforce.
What was the award?
It's called Ally of the Year. So basically what our solutions do is it actually is anti-bias talent management. So when they go ahead and they apply to your opening, based on how close of a match they are, they'll be ranked in our system, showing you the 100% matches first, down to the 70% matches, right? And all of those profiles are going to be blind profiles. So you're going to be able to see their skills matrix, which is a unique solution to us. And that provides you a very quick review. So that substitutes that first initial skim that hiring teams are looking through in that resume before they're saying maybe a good fit, maybe not a good fit, right? So
Right.
that gives it and plainly spells it out for them, Python developer for 6 years of experience. I can
Yeah.
automatically say that you're at least matching my minimum requirements, right? Or I could say my required technology skills. So from there, they get that really quick, easy hit. Now I know what that is, and now I can go ahead and I can justify whether or not, based on their actual experience of where they worked, and maybe how close they are to my location, is for them whether or not they want to unlock that profile between $1 and $10. So based on how close of a match they are, will depend on how much it costs to unlock them. But that also holds them accountable, right? To unlock, they're spending company money, which means they need to follow through. So they can't be biased on things like race, gender, age, sexual orientation, or any of those areas, giving you a more fair advantage overall because now they have a paper trail as to what kind of money they're spending to companies, and their hiring team's going to wonder, well, why didn't you interview this person? And they're not going to have an answer other than they didn't really fit what I thought looked like the rest of our culture internally, right? Unless there is something glaring in the resume that suggests this person may not be truthful, right? So otherwise, you're justifying that spend and you need to follow through, which in turn also results in lower levels of churn and higher placement success.
And so that made me think of a couple questions. Number one, is this the matrix and the product that you built up, is it based off of anything or is it totally customized? Maybe if you could start with that first.
Sure. So it's all based on what we've built into our database.
Yeah.
And we've been very thorough in building out all of these individual suites. We did a lot of research. We've compiled a lot of data to say, okay, listen, Salesforce has these 4 or 5 major clouds, right? And these are the technologies within them. And these are the areas that folks need to be skilled in for a lot of these tools. And it's usually written in plain language throughout the actual the job description. And a lot of people overlook that. So just to give the upfront information immediately to folks, if you don't have these in your skills matrix, then of course you're probably not going to be a strong match, right, for the role.
Yeah.
And that tells you now I shouldn't submit an application for this because I likely won't be considered. But on the other side of that, it tells folks who are definitely a good fit that I can have a baseline here. This gives me the understanding that I am falling within the higher percentile of where this company might be looking for talent in, right? And then it also gives in plain language directly to the hiring team by saying, they match your requirements by exactly this much because of these core areas. If it's 100, obviously it's 100, but if it's 70%, where are they missing some of these skills? What are some of the more important areas that I may not want to see fall through in? And then from there, make a determination on how they want to spend their money rather than spending it on a consistent bleed every single day like other job boards have them do through advertising the job itself.
I see. And then the second question was in regards to where you said other than, people just outright lying, right? And
Right.
So as people are getting savvy with putting in keywords and things like that they know are going to pop on these searches, what do you guys do to help prevent against that sort of stuff so that the work that's being scanned is truly checking them ahead of time for maybe any sort of abnormal, truthful behavior?
Right. I know exactly what you mean. And that's something that I've heard a lot of questions around in the past is how do you, not even through our system, but how do you prevent that in general, right? Because a lot of the times, most of these these resumes are being built off of what AI tells you now that you need to have. Right. Based on my job description, please make me this resume, and it'll do pretty much this, right?
Yeah.
And it
yeah.
matches you for it 100%. The way that we prevent that is actually through our first initial profile development. When you go into our platform, you automatically are prompted. First thing to do is upload your resume, right? So you upload that resume, our system scans it and adapts your resume to our skills matrix, right? Which then from there, we've built barriers, entries within actually building and editing your skills matrix. So that way, from there, you are kind of built into cooldowns of sorts by labor, right? You're not going to, every single time a job comes to your, across your feed, is going to be a role that's going to be good for you, right? So if you now want to go ahead and update your skills matrix, you need to go ahead and go through every single step to do so. So we've made it actually just laborious enough to make it difficult for folks to feel or justify lying consistently, right? And then from there, we're actually building out solutions in place to verify these skills, right? Make sure that, they're not gaming the system either, and that they're building their skills matrices to be accurate and honest.
Okay. I like it. And how do you balance automation with maintaining a human touch in the customer interaction side of things?
Right. And that's really difficult. It's something that we've struggled with over time. And we've realized, especially early on, that we were being too manual and we had too much human intervention, that it was actually becoming a bit of a time sink, right? So we started to kind of try to iterate and build automated solutions in place that also supported our hiring teams. So one of the ways that we do that now is, as for example, when you're actually managing your shortlist, you're able to go ahead and say, this person is not a fit for this role. So rather than them now having to go back into their not a fit pile, write a message at everybody, right? They were actually able to mark them as not a fit, add a note in the system to say, listen, this is why they may not have been a good fit for me, because we do ask that question. And then from there, we automate outreach to that candidate that actually gives them feedback on their rejection, right? But it takes 7 days to do so, right?
Okay.
So we build that timer into play, giving you an opportunity to change your mind at any point throughout those 7 days before a rejection letter is sent. Unlike other systems that just do it immediately once it's done, which creates a bad opportunity for folks. Sometimes you made a mistake, you hit the wrong person, and now that person gets a rejection and then gets an invitation to interview. Exactly. Right? From there, they can also opt in to say that I'd like to offer my rejection information and feedback on a manual basis, right? So that gives them that ability to control that dialogue, right? And also control their employer branding and how the overall network perceives them. Because sometimes what they'll want to do is they'll want to say, hey, listen, you may be a good fit for 10 other jobs that we have in the future. I'd love to keep you on file. Are you open to that? And now they want that communication piece, something that oftentimes is provided in these types of systems. It's usually more of an ATS build. So we're kind of bridging that gap there. So that way you can work effectively and efficiently without completely having the system do things for you. In addition to that, we're not automatically, while we're automatically organizing folks for you in that way, right? We're not going to, mark people as good fits. We're not going to send out messaging that doesn't necessarily reflect your true feelings at any point. So that keeps the ball in your court to decide what the narrative of your company and their hiring process really is. Through that as well, we do have our posting capabilities. You do that all manually. And where we kind of bake in a little bit of support for you is that oftentimes content is actually bucketed in the wrong places, because most systems will allow you to, or will only allow you to, put hashtags to posts that are manual, right? So you can easily mistake that, spell something wrong, put the Y at the end of Python by accident, and all of a sudden no one's going to find your stuff.
Right.
The way that we change that is that we've actually, using the same database that we have throughout all of our system, is we've built all of those into tags as well. So you do manually add those tags. We recommend tags to you based on your content when we parse it before you post it. But in addition to that, that at least your content's going to end up in the right place each time. So it's a little bit of magic, a little bit of regular manual labor.
Nice. And the magic part, when you were talking about the continued conversations, say it wasn't like a hire on that first time, the communications and everything are kind of like going into notes, but then beyond both the company and the candidate having access to those communications, is your system also kind of cataloging that and remembering that communication sequence for the future as well, to maybe try to, pinpoint a better match or something of the sort?
Absolutely. And when it's reviewing that, it's actually taking those profiles in consideration. It's analyzing them. And then in our back end, it'll recommend you candidates that you're more likely potentially to consider in the future based on requirements and based on nuances that are important to you. If you pick up on some of those pieces like, fits the minimum requirements for the role, but doesn't necessarily have the soft skills that we're looking for, right? And it may have been apparent in their interview, right? So from there, once that comes into play, we know, okay, well, what were their soft skills that we want to reference, which doesn't also, by the way, add to the matching, because it's all kind of nuanced, it takes into consideration that, and it says, okay, so they are looking for somebody who is maybe adaptable and has, creative problem solving. So we're more likely then to refer candidates of similar technologies and fields of
Nice.
study in tandem with these soft skills that you likely would have forgotten about or not really taken into consideration until the next job.
Right. I love it. Oh, that's fantastic. What a
Thank you.
great service you guys have.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's been
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking the other night at, I don't know, I was just doing dishes or something, right? And I'm like, man, there's all this stuff going on with my business. And so I was saying to myself, I know that there's people that are just vibe coding these days and making their own apps. And I know that there's things like Whisper out there and stuff like that. But I thought that it would be just like so cool to kind of have my own assistant always there listening. I have got a couple different AI agents that I've, put into place for myself, but one to kind of be alongside me all the time. And I know that you guys have developed a product that's sounds very similar to that, right? And to have that sort of person in on your team right alongside with you. So what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so we have what we just recently built out, which was it's Wingman. And Wingman is part of
Wingman.
our Talent Plus subscription. And basically what it does is it allows candidates to kind of manage their entire job seeking process, right? From start to finish. And they're able to track roles from any job board, any network on the market today that's posting jobs directly by using our Chrome extension, which ties back to our system. And
Interesting. So you've made
yeah,
an extension. So they're doing their own searches on various different platforms, but the
exactly,
extension is seeing their behavior on said platforms, right?
exactly.
Do I follow? And then what?
Exactly. And then from there, you're able to say, okay, well, I'm on this page, right? I've submitted this application or I'm spreading this application, and you're able to open up that extension and you're able to see all of the information that you normally put into these various external sites, like, that take you 20, 30 minutes to build. We're reducing that down by up to 43% faster. So you're able to kind of copy and paste. It's listening to and reading what you normally would respond to these things as well. So that way
Okay.
you can build your profile out more and then recommend that same information to you as you continue down your path for other jobs in the future, right? So it learns as it works with you, right? And, it's very simple. It looks at what's the field requirements versus what's, on your data, extension data. And then you're pressing tab to accept recommendations and suggestions, and you're pressing shift to cycle through things, right? Because sometimes
Huh.
AI doesn't get it all right, right? But then it'll go ahead and it'll say, okay, well, let's reframe this. What we have here, analyzing the system, analyzing the page, and in seconds it spits out a new recommendation for you, right? And then as you apply, you take that URL from the job, you put
Okay.
that into your extension, and then that tracks it directly into Gaggle Social. So that way you have one interface for all
Oh,
jobs
wow.
applied to across every network and every external site that you've been to. And it learns from you as well. So that way it can recommend you similar jobs from our network in the future based on what you're most likely to apply to and based on what you are a closest match for.
Fantastic. That's such a cool feature. And so I
Thank
think
you.
you mentioned that was like a part of Google Plus or something. Sorry, Gaggle or what?
Yeah. Talent
What
Plus.
do your tiers look like? What's involved, and
Yeah.
where does that
So
one come in?
that
The
is a
Wingman.
single subscription
Okay.
option. From there, what they're able to do is actually it's going to cost them $5.99 to start for our first couple of months of having it out there. And then we're going to probably adjust prices based on what we're seeing, right? They may be lower, or, we may find that we want to add some more tools into there because it's necessary and we have to justify a second tier for that as well.
Okay. So
But
this is in
effectively,
rollout then.
yes, this is in the process of rollout.
Nice.
But it is something that is currently being tested actively with our existing user base. So it's something that we are very proud of and we're very excited to see expand and build. We're
Yeah.
looking at ways that we can make it even easier to review some of these things, keep yourself on track a little bit better. We already are giving them the ability to change the status of each job so that we know when it's time to follow up with them. We can recommend that for them. We can remind them to, put in any notes related to the job description itself based on, this was your next step. So what's next for you to do is to put in some notes onto
That's so cool.
who's the right person to talk to, what we spoke about last, all those
Right.
different things. Recall that information before your next interview and then do better the next time around.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. What a great organizational tool you've put together.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And what about internally in your own processes? Do you guys have, or you personally have any workflows or agents or automations that you've put together, maybe on par with Wingman or something different entirely?
No, but I'm working on something right now. So, you mentioned earlier about the data aspect of things, like how do we access all these data? How do we put out the right stuff? And that's effectively a big challenge when it comes to this kind of data management. A lot of people would say, well, that's way too much manual labor for you to do. And that's the beauty of AI now, right?
Right.
It's not when you can build an agent that actually allows you to scan and scrape the web for any type of update that's being done to any of these systems. So that way we don't have to constantly Google every morning, what did SAP put out new next? Or what was the most recent release of Acumatica looking like, right? Or how did Python change its code in its recent release, right? And instead, we can go ahead and have that scraped, and we can evaluate that and do more research as we find it, rather than sitting there searching through each and every technology on the market. It'll tell us when the technologies are being updated just based on the criteria that we've pretty much put into play. So that workflow is going to be a huge time saver, because I can't tell you how long it took us to build what we have today. It was, like I said, it's been a while to build it. So
Yeah,
it's one of those moments that you look back at and you're like, wow, it's been a long time.
I
And
know.
a lot of it was collecting data, doing research, doing surveys, doing polls, trying to figure out the best fit for things and trying to iterate from there.
Nice, nice. I think I saw Neil Patel on podcast on the DOAC podcast recently or
Okay.
something. You familiar with him?
Yes,
Do you know his site, Answer the Public?
I do. It's huge for SEO.
There you go. Yeah. I was wondering if put that in your loop to kind of do the crawling out there for trends and things like that.
That's actually a great idea, Mark. And you know what? You just gave me a new thing to kind of try to feed the system and figure out where we can continuously build around what people are searching most often, because that tells you not only what is new and what's changing, but also what folks are most interested in, so that way we can appeal to the masses a little bit easier.
Yeah. There you go.
I love that.
Yeah. Love it.
Thanks for that. That's awesome.
Oh, my pleasure. That's one of the benefits of doing this podcast is just connecting with people, and learning, and then obviously, sharing all of our learnings through the conversation to the audience here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I actually had a conversation today with a gentleman that you introduced me to, and we're currently trying to figure out where we can potentially synergize in the future for
there you go.
solutions. So, I mean, it always comes back around full circle. We learn, we grow, we help each other out wherever we can. And that's really the community. That's really the main point of community. And I think
Yep,
that's something
indeed.
that has fallen by the wayside on today's usual channels.
It is. It definitely is. And the thing that I like about your platform is how much you're taking AI and then you are tying in that human component, so that it's helping you be like, you've had these conversations with this person, or next time you might want to consider this. Like, that's just being super smart, right? And if we had I guess if the world wasn't so sped up and as fast as it is, right?
Right.
If it was easier for us to stay more organized, then it would just be a slower pace. And,
Yeah.
we'd probably, it's like what life was back in the old days, I guess, right? But these
Right.
days, really having these tools like yours is absolutely key in order for us to individually put our best foot forward, so that we're making as big an impact as possible.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that thought, because to us, I mean, it was never about, as you could tell, right? I mean, our focus is hiring. I mean, and it's a human capital thing, right? It
Yep.
was never about making it so easy that you just can go on autopilot, because that's not how
Right.
the job search is. And you see so many different
Yeah, and even
solutions
if
today for
then
that.
the wrong candidate might get hired because of that, and
Happens
then
every
it's
day.
just everyone's a waste of time because they don't even make their first 3 months.
Happens every day, right? I mean, on the
Yeah,
hiring side of things, ATS systems are auto rejecting folks. I mean, not too long ago, Workday got into a lawsuit because they found out that there was ageism bias in their AI systems, and they had no idea.
yeah.
And
Wow.
then there's these other tools that are quote unquote massively applying for you using AI just based on what you have. They'll auto apply to all these jobs for you. But when you do look back under the hood, you recognize, well, I'm not an operations analyst, right?
Yeah,
I'm not a warehouse specialist, right? How is this happening? And it's really just massive applying to not always the right jobs, and putting you forward for roles that you've probably never would have considered in your life because they're not up your alley or on your wheelhouse. You're getting rejection letters from things that you didn't even know
right.
you applied to. You're getting invitations to interview for jobs that are well under your skill level, and it's creating disarray.
Yeah. Right. And Jared, can you share any lessons learned from your process of putting the company together, putting your latest part of it together in Wingman, right? Where for you've had any challenges or setbacks because of integrating the AI or the workflows or what have you, right? And so what maybe have been some lessons learned from those hardships that you've overcome?
Absolutely. Well, I can start off by saying that starting a business is a whole lot more work than it sounds like on TV, right? It is long hours and late nights and early mornings. A lot of folks recognize that from the get, but they think I have unlimited gas in the tank. And it's because you've never had to do these things before, right? You never had to be up that long. You never had to try to cram in. Most folks are in the process of building their businesses usually when they have a full-time job. You never had to
Right.
end a meeting at 11:45 from your 9 to 5 to run to the coffee shop to have a quick conversation with a potential client at 12 and, wait in line and sit there struggling and worrying, oh no, what's going to happen? So how am I going to make it there on time? Because I haven't sat down yet and I have to order still. And I think the best advice I can give there is pacing yourself. Pacing yourself so you don't run out of gas. One thing that's really important is not burning out, and you will burn out. It's just how it works. But not burning out is, I think, the most important piece of advice that I've followed recently. And it actually came from somebody that's no longer with our organization, but he's still a good friend. And he said, listen, you're burning the candles at both ends, man. I see you're up on Slack at, way before everybody else, and you're getting off of Slack way before everybody else. You can't spend too much time there. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll be fine. And then burnout hit me, and then I felt like I had the flu. And then, I was like, oh, I need to relax for a little bit. It took a week to just kind of collect myself. And luckily I had some very supportive team members who were already working hard at everything. Lo and behold, it happened again, but this time it was harder to get back on the wagon. And then I realized that it's not a cyclical process. It actually advances. Each time that you burn out harder the next time, and it's harder to get back motivated the next time after that, right? Even if you're seeing success, it's difficult to keep that energy going. And your energy is actually what's going to help the rest of your business grow and flourish because
Absolutely.
your personality is infectious, right? How your company perceives you, how your team members see you every day show up is how they're going to want to act in a regular environment, right? So if you're showing up to meetings 20 minutes late, if you're cutting meetings 20 minutes early, if you're not giving enough information or direction and you just go figure it out on your own, those types of things build up and add up, and it becomes difficult to justify continuing this path with you, especially because startups are usually bootstrapped. So you're not paying them much if you're paying them at all, right? So you have to keep that energy infectious, and they have to want to be here. And you are the representation of what you want the rest of the company to feel like, look like, and act like throughout
100%.
all of it. Lead by example.
Yep. It trickles down. That energy definitely trickles down. It motivates, it inspires. I think also, again, having that human connection, no matter what the individual is in your company, and you hear it about big companies to small, just having everyone connected to the human side of things, not knowing all the dirt on the person, right? But just
Right.
truly caring about them, right? And then I think that the loyalty is built up around that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's a really good point. And I had a conversation with a gentleman named David Bookbinder not too long ago, and he has a show called Finding the Numbers.
Finding the Numbers, okay.
Was it Finding the Numbers, or I think it's Between the Numbers? I'll get the actual link for you, Mark. But effectively, it is really all about leadership and being a better leader and a manager for folks. And we spoke about the concept of leading with empathy. And that is something that is so important, something that I also learned by not leading with empathy once or twice in my career and recognizing how much it really impacts not only yourself, but the people around you. And it will impact everybody as a whole, right? And it's just being human. It's listening to their problems.
Exactly.
It's noticing, I have a deadline, right? It needs to go out. But this person's coming to me asking me to leave early because their kid is sick. I can't be, not understanding of that, right? Or they can't reach their deadlines because they had the flu for the last week, which we just kind of had, similar situations in the past, right? Where things were, had to happen and need to go out, but you can't hurt folks more than showing them as a manager that you're not in their corner.
Right.
Right.
Ooh, yeah.
It's difficult.
Well said.
It's difficult to do that consistently, but you got to show up for them because they're not your kids, but you need to treat them like they're part of your family.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they are. They are.
Yeah.
Yep. The biz fam.
The biz fam.
And so on another note, what would you say are potentially some AI trends that you're seeing develop right now? And maybe if you could pontificate on the future, say like 1 or 2 years from now, where do you think AI is trending?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the major trends we're seeing is more in the creative services world, right? Being able to drum up and build, really high gloss, very well designed, very creative solution. I'm sorry, artwork off of a couple simple words into a chat engine, and then it's every time they make an update, it comes out faster and faster and faster, and it comes out better and cleaner. And it was a period of time when ChatGPT had just started, and then Midjourney came out right after that. Every
Yeah.
hand had 6 fingers on each hand.
Yeah,
Every
totally.
elbow was on the wrong side.
Yeah.
And now we're got Nano Banana that just came out, and it's pushing out things that are beautiful.
And
So I
Sora
really
2, do you know Sora 2?
exactly,
Yeah.
yes, that just came out, and it's hurting hurting AI, OpenAI a little bit from what I understand of ChatGPT's. What was it? Sam Walton made I think it was a tweet or a post. Like, you guys gonna stop using it for a little bit because they're trying to figure some things out. But as effectively, they did it rather fast, and I think the trend there, as it continues to grow and build. And I think it's a lot of aspirational situations. A lot of folks are probably in the past
There's
have
a
felt,
lot of that, sure.
yeah, have felt, my art skills aren't great, but I know what I want to say. I know what I want out of it. I can describe it. I would show something for that. And now it's here, so it's growing. So I think we're going to see a shift. I think we're going to see creative services actually starting to dwindle down, and businesses who provide creative services starting to try to innovate on different ways that they can provide services, whether that's prompt engineering or whether that's, a whole new set of solutions that, maybe is unbeknownst to them right now, but something they'll have to move into in order for them to stay afloat. Because at the end of the day, if we could do it ourselves, why pay so much money for it, right? And the quality of them are getting better and better to the point where sooner or later they'll be print ready as opposed to just digital renderings. And that's going to be, I think, a game changer for a lot of people, a lot of small businesses, and a lot of businesses that are providing that today as a service are going to have to change things. And that's going to be a little bit interesting to see. Other trend I think that comes to mind is the data collection and business analysis side, right? It's so
Okay.
crazy how I can go ahead and just tell any of these systems everything about my business and then put it into its own individualized chat like an OpenAI or ChatGPT, and then it can consistently remember and learn from that one chat over and over again. So it's giving me, a high level advice at any point in the day. It's only going to get stronger. So I think business coaches are going to probably not suffer, but they'll probably start to use some of these tools, kind of like how doctors use their systems today, right? They're the professionals, they're the ones who are
Right.
going to prescribe and tell you what to do and what's the best course of action. But at the end of the day, they're looking it up for you as well, right? I think that's going to come to that, right? And it may make the job even easier for the coaches, but it also may make it difficult for the coaches to get more business. So effectively, they'll have to come up with innovative solutions and ways that they can do things, maybe even building their own AIs, specifically for the purposes of individualized niche industries.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a trend towards all of the, well, you said certainly the creator side and, the text to image definitely getting more built out. I think I see a trend of just the people that are going to succeed in business are those that are effectively taking some sort of AI and getting creative with it. And so
Right.
it doesn't necessarily need to be like going to images or whatever, right? But it could be in some degree, whatever kind of like department that they're in their company. And it's like, how do the tools enable them to get even more creative around it and whatever the
Exactly.
service or task is that they're doing, sort of thing. So I definitely see that. And then I think probably also the idea of having like that human oversight, making sure that like for all of the modeling that goes on with AI and we have these multiple agents, like that there's still a human in the loop that's really checking on everything
Exactly.
to, like you talked about before, like strip
Exactly.
out the bias and things like that so that it's not compounded and
Right.
just doesn't go off the rails and maintaining the guardrails, always talking about like having the guardrails for it all.
Right. And
I
I think
think that
that's
those
where,
roles will be important so that, a few years ago, there wasn't a CAIO, right? And
right.
then I foresee it becoming like a department where it's like each member in the department, depending on how big the company is, has a role of going out into other parts of the company to maintain that oversight and compliance and also maximization. Like, are you using AI to the best of your abilities for
Exactly.
your task within the company?
Right, right. Because it's
Yeah.
not, you're not born knowing how to do these things, and no one teaches them
No.
to you, right? So, and they're so new that it's really easy to mess them up. And in total, I think going back to the coaching idea and what you mentioned, I think I wanted to harp on that for a little bit as well, is that it's true. The human element is going to be extremely important even after it grows, right? And as it grows, it's going to get even more important because now we're going to need to make sure that we're doing things not just fast and well, but we're doing them right, and
Right.
that they're hitting a standard, and
Yeah.
that we love to use these tools and say that they're law, but at the end of the day, it's still good to use Google to make sure that what AI told you is right. That's something that I think that a true person and human is going to be able to also provide, right? They're becoming your book of knowledge, right?
Hmm.
Because they're learning and growing, and folks are taking course loads already created by AI at this point, based
Yeah.
on topics that they'd normally have to research for years to do. And
Years
if
and years. Yeah.
exactly, so if they're your expert, then that's who you hire. You bring them in, and they're your point of truth. They're your North Star.
Yeah. I love it. And so as we start to land the plane here, as they say, for the people that are at all hesitant in jumping into, we'll just say the ocean of AI, what would be any recommendations that you have to them?
I'd say that it's scary to start, but it is an ocean of possibilities, and it becomes addicting to learn and grow once again, right? I remember how excited I used to get when I was a kid and I was going to school earlier on, right? I was like, I'm going to learn some things today. I'm a good student. I want to be a good student. I want to be a splendid learner. And
Right.
then eventually high school hits and you're no longer a splendid learner. You're into sports, you're into, the opposite gender or the same gender, whatever that looks like for you. And you have your different priorities. And then you kind of forget that path until you get to college. And then that goes away
Yeah.
after some time, right? You start to realize, yeah, I'm always learning, but I'm always learning passively, and you lose that spark for doing so. This creates that opportunity again, right? This builds a whole
Absolutely.
new opportunity for you to learn, for you to expand your knowledge, become an expert just about anything you want to get without having to spend 60, 70, $80,000 a year on school,
Right.
right? How
Right.
beautiful
Go
is
to some
that?
crazy adult ed post grad, tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Exactly. And when you can learn it, and you know what, you won't have a degree that says it, that you went there and learned that stuff, but you know that you know it, right?
Yeah.
And as
And you're
long as you
able to
keep your
put it into
information
play.
current, exactly, and you're able to use it. As long as you keep your information current, you can use it for tomorrow.
Yep. Yep. And verify it. But yeah, I like what you said there, where because it's an example of always be learning. And I saw, where was it? Over the weekend, I saw on PBS, there was a woman basically saying how there was a gentleman who had Alzheimer's. And this was ringing really true to me because I lost my mom from Alzheimer's.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thanks. And the woman speaking the story of this gentleman, he had Alzheimer's, and she was saying how actually he didn't really present with having Alzheimer's because when he first started to see the signs of it, he took the steps to always be learning. And so for him, he took up the banjo. Well, first it was the mandolin and then the banjo,
Wow.
and then he formed this little singing and music group.
Wow.
And so his desire to always be learning gave his brain the cognitive, the new neural pathways that what was being calcified and with plaque, everything in the buildup that makes the disease physical in the brain, that just wasn't being prevalent in his normal I don't even want to say 9 to 5, I mean, it's normal life, right?
Right, right.
Because of his continual learning. And
Wow.
so it's really interesting of just how much the challenge here for people in using AI, I believe, is to use it as a cognitive upgrade, and that those people that are using it and afraid of it, think of it more like a cognitive offloading. It's like, well, this has done the work for me. This can
Right.
build up my resume for me, and it can say all the, great things that I'm trying to get this job for, but I might not be totally qualified for, right? Like all because they're, not being authentic to themselves and wanting to use the tool accurately. But point being there that the AI can really help people learn about
Wow.
so many things about their life, their business, and different, pathways can be formed within their own brain, within their own life, their family, their community, their company, and therefore just the collective good is really impacted because of it.
That's really awesome. Never think about, well, it's not that you never think about it, but it's because so many people take thinking and your brain for granted, right? You don't really constitute, even though it is, the brain is a muscle that can be worked out.
Yeah. Oh,
And
100%. Yeah.
consistently removing things like plaque as long as you're continuously working it, right? Making sure that you're staying as sharp as possible. And I've noticed a strong increase in my own memory since using AI myself and
Oh,
trying
that's
to recall
great to hear.
information. Yeah. So like I will try to learn something new, and I also will play I'll watch The Weakest Link or something like that with my family, and
Yeah.
we'll all play and we'll look at the answers wrong, but sometimes you get them right and we remember them. And I remembered things a whole lot more than I used to just by increasing the amount that I'm reading and learning out of things I actually am interested in, not just
Yeah.
what's today's news, right? But learning things that I care about, like the different kinds of styles for writing, right? For example, I always wanted to be an author, but hasn't gotten to that point yet. Teach me how to write better, right? Take my writing, make me a course load based on how I can improve over time, right? And then expand upon that. It's wonderful because so many folks have said in the past, the internet's at your disposal, you have everything that you need, but it always felt a little stunted. And now it feels like we pulled the brakes, right? Now you can learn anything that you want, and you don't have to worry about the ads that you find, about the blog post that might be a
Yeah,
little
there you
bit
go.
swayed to one side or
Right.
self-serving. It's all about what I asked. It's what I wanted to begin with.
I love it. What an age we're in, right?
Right.
Yeah,
It's changing rapidly. I can't wait
it
to see
really
where it
is.
is even next year, a little long, 5 years from now.
I know it seems like it's such a cliche thing to say, but like the time really seems like it's speeding up.
Yes. Well, we're having fun, right? In our
Yeah.
own ways.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, Jared. When people want to slow down and learn a bit from you, how can they find you online?
Yeah. So I can be found on LinkedIn. A simple Jared Tang is searchable there. You can find me on Gaggle Social as well if you're in the tech space. Pretty active in my own community. I try my best at least. And, on top of that, I do frequent certain other social solutions like Reddit or a Blue Sky. So I'm getting a little bit more active in both of those communities as of actually last week. I'll be started creating some things that I want to talk about and some things I want to start spreading some content on. So I'm looking forward to having any questions come by me and see where I can help support others.
Oh, nice. Fantastic. All right, Jared. Well, thanks again, and we'll talk
Thanks for
soon.
having me, Mark. I really appreciate it. It was a great time.
Make a great day.
You too. Bye.
All right, we'll edit the rest out. That was fun.
Awesome. That was fun. I had a great time.
Yeah.
You have a great speaking voice, so you're
So do you.
perfect. Thank you. I've definitely, when I first started trying to podcast early on,
When was that?
that was, I tried to make a YouTube channel when I was younger, and
Okay.
I did not do well. I was actually making like video game content and whatnot, but I used to have a really bad habit of speaking fast, and I would eat up my syllables and my words sometimes slur just because my brain was moving faster than my mouth could move.
Right.
And sometimes I catch myself doing that still, but it was a long journey.
Yeah, well, we definitely do think, and we can process faster, as you know, than what we speak. So
Right.
I feel your pain there for sure. Because sometimes with people, I'm just like, I already get what you're saying. Like, will you move on?
Yes. Just
It's
finish the
like-
sentence.
Right. Sometimes I'm like, why can I only text this Audible book?
Yes.
You
That's
know?
so funny. No, I know exactly what you mean. My fiance strictly watches.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you. She strictly watches TV on 2 times speed when she's working, because she's like, she'll listen
TV?
to
Wow.
she'll like listen to like something on the background or like
Oh,
a
like
podcast
YouTube or
that's
something,
streaming.
or like actual TV?
Yeah, sometimes like actual TV, depends on what it is.
Yeah.
But anything, for that matter, if she needs it to sound, But then she'll be able to tell me, I saw a video today that X, Y, and Z, this happened. And I'm like, and then one time, and she works for Gaggle as well. One time we had a working session and she forgot her headphones. So I'd actually never really, she worked with headphones in, so I never really knew what she was listening to. I was thought it was music.
Right.
And she forgot, and she was like, "Would you mind if I played my podcast?" And I was like, "Oh, sure." And she had like downloaded it and then like 2x'd it, and it was incredible. I couldn't understand a word they were saying because I was
fast.
It was so fast, and
Yeah.
the sound of me typing and the focus that I'm putting into it. And I'm like, "How are you processing?" And I'm like, "Can you even understand what they're saying?" And she was like, "Yeah, he just said X, Y, and Z." And I was like, "Okay, cool." As long as you get it.
Right. I knew I liked you. I'm marrying you for a reason.
Yes. Because
You're smart.
She's definitely smarter than me. Yeah, she's definitely wicked smart. I say that to her every day. You're way smarter than me. But she also makes fun of me for being the only, she goes, "You're the only person I know who owns a tech business who doesn't know how to use his iPhone."
Well, it's like our brain. There's so many features in it that we just don't use.
Yes, they're just kind of in the background. I just found out the other day that there is like a new transcription tool, I guess, in the iPhone. From what I understand, I think it's a new transcription tool, or it's like you're able to record and then export the recording for AI. From what I understand, it's pretty interesting to hear. And basically, take that information, because she just paid money for this AI like tool, effectively records for all conversations, and then it gives you a transcription of the day, like a breakdown of the day. And she was like, "I just found like it was on my phone." I was like, "So you waited, weeks for this to come to you, because it was in beta. It wasn't released yet, and they were behind on manufacturing." And she was like, "I waited weeks for this, and in reality, I could have used my phone the whole time."
Interesting. Wow.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah, especially because it sounds like it's such a sort of omnipresent thing. It's always there with you and able to listen in. Kind of creepy. Kind of cool.
Bit. Yep.
Yeah, I know. I think that Apple will be back to the swing of things when they kind of up-level their Siri, because right now Siri is just so basic, but it's like, just make it current these days,
Yeah, it is odd.
Yeah,
they were the first AI, not AI, but first assistant that could actually provided things, at a handheld level.
Yeah.
At least from what I understand. And now when I try to use Siri, it asks me if I want to use ChatGPT.
Really? Oh God. Yeah, they really got to get clued in.
Yes, exactly. I was like, wow, you guys gotta get current.
Yeah.
You're using someone else's tool to support your existing tool, which you definitely have the means to make better.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny you say that, because we have a tool that we can use, but you have to like consciously turn it on. It's not always like on your phone, right?
Right.
And so where it's a sales call analyzer, right? And so we can take it and we can put it into, like, we can take a transcript and we can put it into the analyzer, and then it'll come back with a bunch of feedback. So like, I was wondering like how big your sales force is and what you do to train them, because like what your wife is doing into the phone, awesome. Like we have a tool for that. And then there's also a version of it that's rolling out shortly, which is going to be live. So I don't know how large your sales team is, or, what they do on training, but maybe you'll be interested in either one of that, because anyone can take a transcript and like put it into GPT, right?
Right.
But the dev team has just taken it to that other level, such that it's trained on anything that it knows about you and the client ahead of time.
Okay.
And then after that, it's analyzing everything and it's putting it into perspective of the client's company, and then also like what your services are, right?
Wow.
And then, like I said, and then there's the live version that's coming out. So yeah, anyway, that's one example of...
I'm one of two.
What's that?
I'm only one of two folks, and the second person who does sales at the organization is maybe a month into... This is his third week. This is his third week, so we're going to be trying to scale soon. So that might be something I'm chewing your ear on a little bit, trying to figure out how that works. I would definitely be interested in testing that out.
Yeah. Happy to connect on that. And then anything else too, like on the biz dev side or whatever. Like we were talking about Sora 2, and I use HeyGen, and like how that could be something. Like some people are going into just that as a service these days. So when you were talking about the text to image sort of thing, I think that you nailed it on the spot. Creativity that's allowing companies to help get their brand out there. So brand is a little different than doing something that's AI related for sales and lead gen, right? Because it's branding. It doesn't lead to a measurable growth as much as like helping with sales or lead gen or that sort of stuff.
Right.
But all of this stuff is things that we do. So yeah, like let's further the conversation so we could see exactly what might interest you. And because we do some things exactly like that.
That's awesome. No, definitely interested in checking those out because any way that I can improve our workflow now. I mean, I'm heading up our sales. I'm also doing all of our graphics. And I was thinking today, I'm looking at our go-to-market strategy and we're kind of up on the 8 ball on building some things out because I've been busy. And I'm like, man, I wish I had like 3 more of me.
So you're marketing also?
Yeah. I'm Chief Everything Officer.
Okay.
All of our team members are in tech. We brought in a head of growth, so he's still getting up to speed, but we still had some tools to obviously launch and didn't want him to stop his learning to help us with this flow. So he's interjected a little bit into there, but mostly it's been, myself ideating and building content around it. And then my fiance is in marketing, so she's helping me with the graphics and the copywriting and the
company,
captioning. No, Gaggle.
Okay.
Yeah, she's working for Gaggle, but she also has a 9-to-5 too. So she works for a law firm where she handles administrative duties and warrants for real estate.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you were saying you're mostly sales, but when you were saying that you were coming up with content or something, that made me think that you're like all marketing too, but you have at least her helping you in your marketing.
She kind of takes the vision that I'm bringing to the fray, and she's helping to pop out some of the stuff.
Nice.
So she's brilliant with the planning of things, and how people want to be spoken to and what they want to hear. I'm really more on the design side and the sales side, right? So while I'm kind of giving the sign-offs and I'm building a lot of the content around it, she's like, okay, well, it has to go out this day at this time because X, Y, and Z. It's got to be focused on this because of this psychological trigger. So she's technically the brains behind it. I'm like, okay, well, what does this psychological trigger really want to see? Okay, well, they want to brand awareness and they want to feel good. So, okay, let's make something happy here. And then I'm kind of just form fitting it to that. She ends up being the final approver technically because I'm like, I'll do all of it and I'll set it all up. And while I can easily just go ahead and say, okay, this is where we're going, I'm like, what do you think of this?
Nice. Sounds like you guys are quite the power couple.
Yeah, we're a little bit of a team there, and honestly, I feel like it's gotten us since bringing her into the business. Kind of gotten us even closer because a lot of people have a hard time working with family, but we're able to be best friends at the same time.
That's great. That's really important too. Separate that out. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, I'd love to learn a little bit more about the tools you're working on. I mean, is there like a website that I can go to that's got all of them kind of put in together, or are they kind of all sprung out across different things? So would love to know.
Yeah. No, we don't really have like a demo site. If you'd like, we could put like whenever it's convenient for you, we'll put something on the book so that I could explain to you more and answer your questions. So, because we don't really have like a demo site, right?
Sure.
For these tools, it's more about the services. I'd be happy to show you, what we have for like how I use the sales call analyzer myself, so you can see what's in it.
That'd be perfect.
And I could just do like a screen share real quick at that time.
Yeah.
And, answer any questions.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much. It was an awesome time.
Yeah, it was great.
We got to talk about getting you on the podcast as well, all right?
Yes, 100%.
We'll chat about that on Monday.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Take care.